Many of the outlaws who spent time in Colorado were larger-than-life figures, fueling conversation, rumors, and eccentric stories wherever they went. Though they lived outside of the law, the legacies of some of the world's most notorious outlaws were taken in and remembered throughout Colorado. The Wild West itself was a breeding ground for mischief and mayhem. The sprawling, sparsely populated landscape, lack of government regulation and control, and the craggy cliffsides harbored criminals of all kinds. The Outlaw Trail, a network of trails weaving into Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and even Mexico, was favored by outlaws, including Butch Cassidy and the Wild Bunch Gang, as they escaped from one roost to the next. The gang included Robert Leroy Parker, alias Butch Cassidy, Harry A. Loggenbog, alias the Sundance Kid, Ben Kilpatrick, alias the Tall Texan, Will Carver, alias News Carver, and Harvey Logan, alias Kid Curry. One popular hideout on the Outlaw Trail was Browns Park. Situated on the corner of Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado, outlaws could move across state lines to avoid apprehension. A haven for desperados, Browns Park was an isolated ranching community that maintained peace between homesteaders and bandits. Resident and alleged cattle rustler A.M. Bassett remembers, "There was a reason why the people of Browns Park were not interested in starting a row with the outlaws. In the first place, we did not know what their business really was. They started no trouble with us, and we let them alone." According to legend, the outlaws were so grateful to the residents of Browns Park that they hosted a dinner in 1895, known as the Outlaws' Thanksgiving Dinner. A formal affair held by Butch Cassidy and his gang, everyone dressed up in their finest attire. The menu allegedly included Blue Point oysters, roast turkey with chestnut dressing, hot rolls with sweet butter, and coffee with whipped cream. Ann Bassett commented on Butch Cassidy's anxiety over serving his guests. "Poor Butch. He could perform such minor jobs as robbing banks and holding up pay trains without the flicker of an eyelash. But serving coffee at a grand party? That was something else. The blood-curdling job almost floored him. He became panicky and showed that his nerve was completely shot to bits. This just shows how etiquette can put fear into a brave man's heart." Butch Cassidy and his Wild Bunch gang were infamous for their bank and train robberies, targeting the wealthiest men in the West. Butch Cassidy had seen his family get unfairly pushed off their land by the Mormon Church. In return, Butch targeted those he thought had taken more than their fair share, enacting his own sense of justice for his family's hardships. Butch's gang grew so well known that the elite Pinkerton Detective Agency began to pursue them, causing them to flee to South America. A few years later, though most of the Wild Bunch gang had left the States, Harvey Logan, aka Kid Curry, who had originally run with Butch Cassidy, attempted one of the West's last train robberies. Logan got on the 11:15 a.m. Denver and Rio Grande train at Parachute in June of 1904. He held the engineers at gunpoint and demanded that he stop in Straight Flats, where he was joined by two accomplices. The three outlaws blew open the safe with dynamite, expecting to find gold. It is believed that the gold they were after was on an earlier train. In defeat, the outlaws crossed the Colorado River to Battlement Mesa, chased by a posse of lawmen. They met on the East Divide Creek, where the lawmen shot one outlaw and all three horses. The two surviving outlaws ran away on foot and were never seen again. Sisters Ann and Josie Bassett, whose family ranched in Browns Park, were acquaintances of the gang and also had reputations of their own. Like Butch, the sisters were concerned with small ranching families being run out by large corporations like the two-bar cattle empire. Ann's illicit activity became so notorious that she acquired the nickname Queen of the Cattle Rustlers. Ora Haley, who worked for Two Bar, tried to buy out many of the small ranches in the area. Though some sold out, most ranchers refused to give in. Two Bar cattle were known for rustling in order to push small ranchers out. In turn, small ranchers may have rustled cattle from Two Bar as well. A few large cattle ranchers, including Two Bar, came together to hire Tom Horn, a professional hitman and scout, to go undercover and investigate cattle rustling. Tom Horn traveled to Browns Park under the name Tom Hicks. He went to work with Ann's close friends, Matt Rash and Isom Dart. After Horn started working for Rash and Dart, he decided to send a message to cattle rustlers in Browns Park, so he killed both of them in 1900. Rash and Dart had originally come to Colorado on cattle drives from Texas and worked on the Bassett Ranch. Ann, Rash, and Dart formed close ties and were even nicknamed the Bassett Gang. Rash and Ann may have been engaged before his untimely death. Isom was described as a top hand among cowboys and one of the only 2 black men in Browns Park. He was also known for his skill with the fiddle and talent in the kitchen. William Daniel Titsworth, who had visited his father in Browns Park several times and was present during Isom's funeral, later spoke of him saying, "Isom Dart was a Negro. He came from Texas in the early days. He was a bronco buster and an expert roper. There was nobody could compete with him in that country. He was a big fellow and rather raw-boned, but live as he could be." Anne wasted no time in taking revenge on Two-Bar. She blamed the cattle empire for the deaths of Rash and Dart. Anne courted and married Ora Haley's foreman, Hy Bernard. Though her motives cannot be confirmed, this union certainly brought her into a position of power in the Two-Bar empire. When Haley caught on to Anne's actions, he fired Bernard and brought Anne to court on alleged rustling charges. Haley had little proof to convict Anne, and Anne had a good lawyer. Anne's lawyer tricked Haley into bragging about his empire, where he accidentally admitted to having twice as many cattle as he had registered with the county. In 1913, Anne was declared innocent. The Craig courtroom was packed with Anne's supporters. Hooray for victory flashed across the movie screen at the silent theater in town. Bonfires were lit in the street, and there was an all-night victory dance. Another notorious character, which captured the public's affection, was Doc Holliday. He first traveled to the West in hopes that the mountain air and hot springs would heal him of his tuberculosis. While moving through the West, he became a gambler and befriended U.S. Marshal Wyatt Earp. In Tombstone, Arizona, brothers Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan Earp heard of the illegal activities of loosely formed gang, the Cowboys, with whom the Earp brothers had a long-standing feud. Temporarily deputizing Holliday, they confronted the Cowboys, resulting in one of the most famous gunfights in Old West history, the gunfight at OK Corral in 1881. 30 shots were fired in 30 seconds, and 3 of the 4 cowboys were killed. The 4th cowboy charged the lawmen and Holliday with murder. Holliday sought and was granted protection in Colorado, making a life for himself in Leadville. Trouble followed him to this small town in the form of John Tyler, an old enemy from Tombstone. At the same time, local bartender Billy Allen began threatening Holliday's life for a $5 debt. Thinking the 2 men were in cahoots, Holliday shot Allen at the Hyman Saloon in Leadville, later explaining, "It was not about the $5. That was taken as pretext. It was about old trouble, and Allen was picked out as the man to kill me." Holliday stood trial for attempted murder and was acquitted. After the trial, he moved to Glenwood Springs for the mineral waters, hoping it would cure his ailing health. In 1887, he died at age 34 in Glenwood Springs and is buried there. People still visit his gravestone today, leaving playing cards and coins as a memento to his adventurous life. Though many of Colorado's outlaws captured the affection of those who met them, others, like Harry Tracy, were met only with fear. Tracy, expert escape artist, was chased through Browns Park after escaping from the Utah State Penitentiary in 1897. The deputy sheriff and Routt County sheriff did not recognize the stranger as Tracy, but his suspicious behavior tipped them off. The sheriffs created a posse at the Bassett cabin to apprehend him. While in Browns Park, Tracy shot local rancher Valentine S. Hoy. He was arrested and taken to Routt County Jail in Hans Peak for that murder. While in prison, Tracy met David Lant. They escaped after a few weeks, breaking out of their cell, beating Sheriff Nyman, and locking the sheriff in the very cell they had broken out of. Though Tracy and Lant believed Nyman to be unconscious, the sheriff actually overheard their escape plans. Lant and Tracy stole 2 stage horses in a Hans Peak and rode to Sidney Ranch, intending to go to Stagecoach the next day. With Sheriff Nyman's insider information, a posse formed in Steamboat to catch the escaped convicts. The next morning, the posse pulled up to Sidney in the very stagecoach that Lant and Tracy were intending to take. Tracy and Lant were hauled back to Hans Peak Jail and then transferred to a much more secure jail in Aspen. Despite Aspen's solid reputation, Lant and Tracy broke out after only a couple of months. In Tracy's lifetime, he broke out of 4 jails in Utah, Colorado, and Washington. Tracy went on to earn the reputation as the deadliest outlaw in Routt County, killing at least 6 people. The Seattle Daily Times writes, In all of the criminal lore of the country, there is no record equal to that of Harry Tracy for cold-blooded nerve, desperation, and thirst for crime. Jesse James, compared with Tracy, is a Sunday school teacher. The Wild West is famous for its shootouts, heists, and hideouts. The frontier was virtually an open range for outlaws, where they made their own rules, easily able to evade sheriffs who were spread thin over vast territories. Some of the outlaws took justice into their own hands and were beloved by the community, while others wreaked havoc on the small towns of northwest Colorado.